The last time my Evo ran, it was sucking bits of turbo blade into the intercooler. So earlier this year, I removed the bad turbo and went back to a stock unit, inspecting the oil along the way. It all looked fine. The Evo is mostly back together. We have the old Evo 9 turbo on, replacing the HKS that we used last season. At this point, I just need to know if I can fire the car back up safely or not. So the only real way we can determine that is we are going to take the oil that we pulled out of the engine from when the turbo blew up last year, and we are going to take it and get it analyzed and see if there are a bunch of contaminants in the oil. If there are, motor's probably not good. After shipping off a sample of my oil to be inspected by an oil analysis company, the Evo received a clean bill of health. So I reinstalled the turbo and fired it up. Unfortunately, I then noticed a problem. There appears to be a very faint knock from the engine at a certain part of the idle. This is concerning enough to me that it warrants bringing the Evo to the shop and pulling the oil pan for an inspection of the rotating assembly. Oh boy, what is that? There you go.
Oh yeah, you gotta tap it.
This is what we found in the oil pan of the Evo. It's a mixture of plastic pieces, which I've confirmed with Ron are plastic carriers that held the ball bearings for the HKS turbo, which was a ball bearing turbo. And then these huge metal chunks, I don't know what they're from. Probably turbo if I had to guess. So we've also inspected the bottom end, done a cursory inspection just to see if there's any up and down play with any of these bearing caps or anything like that with the rods themselves. Doesn't seem like it. Without actually taking the caps off and inspecting the bearings for thickness or any kind of damage, then we can't know if the knock that we're hearing is coming from the bottom end or if it's some kind of piston slap issue or wrist pin, something like that. But I don't really know if I even want to go that far right now. So obviously we're getting a little bit of a knock from the engine, and also we found a bunch of foreign objects in the oil pan. The car has run, we know, in that state, but just to be sure that, you know, there's a problem with the engine, I want to do one more inspection of the oil from a different source. So we're going to head to our friends at Valvoline and have them do an oil analysis for us. So I'm here now at Valvoline headquarters here in Lexington, Kentucky, and I have brought some oil samples here with me from when the engine initially failed, or I should say the turbo initially failed, and then this is from the oil that was in the engine when I noticed it knocking after I put the new turbo on. And I brought it here because I want a second opinion from Amy, who does a bunch of, how would you describe your job, Amy? What do you do here?
So I'm the lubricants testing manager, and part of my job is overseeing the laboratory that performs a lot of used oil analysis.
Okay.
So we can help you troubleshoot and identify maybe what is going on or what has happened in your fluid, or what you've replaced after the repair. Maybe we can see how usable it is or how much wear is currently in the system.
Gotcha. We can maybe try and find out why my engine is knocking.
We can try.
All right, yeah. Well, so what we're doing now is taking these, well, I shouldn't say we, what Amy is doing is taking these samples that I brought and running them through testing equipment.
So what we're standing next to is an infrared analyzer. It's a way for us to look at the chemical composition of the fluid. And I'm looking at your, what I'm calling pre-apocalypse and post-apocalypse samples. So when you had the VR1 fluid in your vehicle,
Which was at Lime Rock when the turbo first exploded.
when the blade broke and it went through your intercooler. And then we also have, after you cleaned everything up, rebuilt everything, and you put in the Eurosyn 5W40.
Yeah.
So even though those are different fluids, chemically I can look for the same markers that would indicate failure of the fluid or some really aggressive wear on that fluid as a result of being in service. So I would look at certain regions, like right here, we would look for oxidation and nitration, anti-wear depletion. So like the friction modifiers are considered anti-wear additives. So we would see a significant depletion of those. And I am really surprised at how similar these look.
Basically what you're probably looking at is two basically brand new samples of both of those oils, because the one from Lime Rock had like 20 miles on it, and the other one literally maybe it idled and drove through the garage.
Right. So, and I'm seeing that here. I don't see any signs of significant oxidation. So if there's any wear and tear on that fluid, I'm not seeing it here. This is a camera, it's a spectrometer. So it takes a picture of what elements were present and how much were there, how intense was the concentration.
Do we have vanadium? Do we have chromium? Do we have manganese?
And your sample, no. But we are analyzing for those elements.
Rutherfordium?
No.
Do we no?
Nope. Every element corresponds to a given wavelength of light. So where, let's look at magnesium, 280.271. So that is 280.271 nanometers of light. So that is the wavelength on our instrument at which magnesium emits. So when we blow up a molecule that has magnesium in it, it's going to take a picture of that moment of emission, and it's going to say how much magnesium was present, how much stuff was present at this wavelength of light, and that's what this peak is. So this is a spectral image of the aluminum content. So this is our 100 ppm standard. So we know that this is exactly 100 ppm of aluminum. This is 875 ppm of aluminum, so the volume is much higher so think about back in high school geometry when you had to calculate the area of a triangle, kind of like that, but with a lot more calculus. And your samples are all the way down here, so very, very, very little aluminum in these guys. Okay. So this is your sample right after the turbo blow up with the VR120W50 in it. It looks really good. I'm highlighting that there are 3 ppm of iron present because it's very low, and specifically to highlight that in comparison to what we're calling your 3 Mile Island post-apocalypse
Which
Euro
is
sample.
After I put everything back together.
After you put everything back together, you rebuilt everything, you're still hearing a little knock, and you're up to 23 ppm of iron. Okay, so that's an indicator
20
of
more
wear.
parts per million of
So
iron.
your and that was only a track run, like an idle. No, that wasn't even a track run. That was an idle.
Yes.
So in that quick amount of time, so you either have some residual solubilized metal, or you're generating new metal from a wear, from some sort of wear.
Yeah.
So I would check that out.
When I got back to the shop, I sent the metal and plastic shavings I'd found in my oil pan to James at Valvoline, who could use an extremely powerful microscope to give me information about what I'd found. My suspicion is that we will find steel and plastic from the ball bearings used in the HKS turbo, which probably made their way into the oil pan from the turbo drain.
Now, I know that this is not like a bigger problem than something I've dealt with before on the Evo. This is its second engine. It's been through a bunch of transmissions. Obviously, if you put your mind to something and you decide we're gonna get this car running, 100%, we could be making more Evo content. We could have the car at the track very soon. But we've done a lot of stuff to the Evo just in the last year. And I think that's kind of why I feel like maybe we should give it a little bit of a rest. I have a bunch of other projects that I think I haven't been able to devote really as much time as I would like to for you guys on the channel, and also just personally. I'd like to work on some of my other cars and get them drivable, get them nicer, get them more refined. I have the S2000, I have the MR2, now I have the Camaro. All of these cars, I think, deserve a little bit more of my attention, and the Evo has already gotten 8 years worth of my attention. So I think, as hard as it is to say, as much as I love this car, it is my favorite car, and as bad as I want to drive it, I think this year we're going to take a break from the Evo just with where we're at with it. I think we're just going to let the Evo have a year off, and yeah, we can just give the Evo a little bit of a break. So I know this might be kind of hard to hear, especially if you're a big fan of the Evo, but it's not going anywhere. Obviously, I'm never getting rid of this car. It is my favorite car ever. But this is just kind of what I want to do. I want to take a break from the Evo for this year, just so I don't feel like I'm throwing money at the same car over and over, year after year. And I want to work on some other projects. I want to make some videos with the S2000. I want to get the MR2 really dialed in. I want to make it a fast track car, a great seat time car. The Evo will be back, just not in the immediate future. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you understand, and I'm super excited for the other stuff that I'm going to get to work on. So thanks again for watching, guys.